I want to remain anonymous. Is that okay?
Okay. What are you calling to report, sir?
The double homicide that happened in April this year.
What can you tell me about that?
Everything, actually.
The residential tree-lined neighborhood of Cowell Boulevard meanders through the heart of Davis, California. It's situated close to the busy highway and not too far from the pulse of the town center. Here, amidst the mostly single-family homes and condominiums, where 87-year-old Oliver Northup and his wife of 17 years, 76-year-old Claudia Morin, made their home. With its modest 1,088 square feet, their home provided a snug retreat for the retired couple, but accommodating their large family of 9 children and 14 grandchildren could sometimes prove to be a challenge. At 9:30 p.m. on the 14th of April, 2013, the tranquility of Cowell Boulevard was disrupted when Davis police received a phone call from one of Claudia's adult daughters. She had become concerned by the lack of communication from her mother throughout the day, and repeated attempts to reach her had gone unanswered. When Oliver's children tried to reach him throughout the day as well, they received the same strange silence. The phone just rang and rang, but nobody answered. It was a Sunday, and Oliver and Claudia hadn't shown up for a memorial service at the church. Oliver had been scheduled to sing that day. Growing worried, the children had gone over to their home earlier in the evening. Upon arrival, they noticed that the Sunday newspaper was still lying untouched in the driveway, a detail that deepened their concern. As night fell, Officer Mark Herman arrived at the couple's light brown condominium after Claudia's daughter called 911. Despite the darkness outside, the interior blazed with light from within. The car sat parked in the driveway, but repeated knocks on the front door yielded no response. Officer Herman searched the perimeter of the home and made an ominous discovery. One of the window screens had been slashed open. As he peered through the window, his view was obscured, but he was sure that he could see blood in the master bedroom. With caution, he entered the home with his firearm drawn. His calls to Oliver and Claudia echoed throughout the silent house. Moving through the meticulously arranged living room, Officer Herman proceeded toward the master bedroom. As he stepped inside, his eyes swept the space for any signs of Oliver and Claudia, but he was immediately drawn to the double bed. The once pristine sheets were stained crimson with blood, and Oliver and Claudia lay deceased on top of them. Oliver Northup was born to parents Eleanor and Oliver on the 26th of April, 1925 in Grand Island, Nebraska. He served in the United States Navy during World War II, following which he developed a profound passion for law. His academic pursuit led him to Bolt Hall School of Law in UC Berkeley, where he earned his undergraduate degree before venturing into the legal realm. Initially, Oliver embarked on his career as an appellate court clerk, later transitioning to the role of a prosecutor. Those acquainted with Oliver characterized him as an English professor disguised in the garb of a lawyer. While his devotion to law remained steadfast, his heart found solace in the realms of literature, where he meticulously preserved timeless passages of Western classics. Music also held sway over his soul, nurtured by the melodies sung by his father during his upbringing. In 1965, Oliver's passion for music culminated in the formation of the Puta Creek Cads, a local folk band, alongside fellow church members Captain Thomas, Mark Fay, and Ray Syke. Then, in 1996, Oliver crossed paths with Claudia Maupin at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Davis, a college town he had moved to in 1976. Claudia, born on the 15th of May, 1936, served as a pastoral associate there, while Oliver was a frequent visitor. Much like Oliver, Claudia had a passion for the arts, and she was actively involved in the local theater scene. Their shared interests in literature and classic films ignited an instant connection between them. Claudia, who was a mother of 3, and Oliver, who was a father of 6, found themselves as empty nesters, drawing them closer together. Later that same year, Oliver and Claudia exchanged vows. On their wedding day, the two families stood behind the couple as they recited their vows. Despite Oliver's prior experiences with marriage, having been married 3 times before and widowed, he approached his union with Claudia with even greater compassion and understanding. His children said that each marriage had taught him how to be a kinder and more loving person. So when he married Claudia, he applied the lessons he had learned from each past marriage. Their marriage resulted in a substantial blended family, comprising 9 children, 2 stepchildren, 14 grandchildren, and 8 great-grandchildren. All of Oliver and Claudia's children rejoiced in their parents' newfound love. By 2013, 87-year-old Oliver and 76-year-old Claudia reveled in their well-deserved retirement. Claudia's earlier years were marked by her tenure as a phone company technician, while Oliver had served as a prosecutor. But Oliver wasn't quite ready to be fully retired yet, and he remained engaged in his legal career, specializing in criminal appellate law. He imparted his wisdom through seminars at the public defender's office. He furthered his commitment by undertaking criminal appellate defense work for the California Appellate Project, advocating for prison inmates who sought a second chance at justice. After Officer Herman found Oliver and Claudia dead in bed, he took in the scene. Oliver had sustained 61 stab wounds, while Claudia had 67. But the horrors didn't end there. Both Oliver and Claudia lay before Officer Herman, their bodies mutilated, dissected, and disemboweled. In that moment, Officer Herman felt a wave of dread wash over him, realizing that this was more than just a regular crime scene. As he radioed for help and began to assess the extent of their injuries, a surreal sight met his eyes. A cell phone was nestled within the gaping cavity of Claudia's stomach. Nearby, a drinking glass jutted out from Oliver's torn stomach. The murder investigation commenced promptly, with forensic experts meticulously scouring Oliver and Claudia's home for any traces of evidence. While signs of forced entry were evident, with one of the window screens sliced open, the absence of any indication of a burglary puzzled detectives. Recent burglaries in the neighborhood, where thieves accessed homes by hopping fences behind the condominiums, added a layer of complexity to the case. However, the lack of stolen items led detectives to conclude that the intruder's sole intent was to murder Oliver and Claudia. Despite this, detectives were perplexed about a possible motive. Oliver and Claudia were an elderly couple, and all of their friends and family said they had no enemies. Oliver's youngest son, Robert, commented, "It's tragic that such generous and beautiful people would die violently, especially since they would have given the shirts off their backs to anybody who needed it." Meanwhile, forensic experts meticulously combed through every inch of the crime scene, searching for elusive evidence. Despite the frenzied and brutal nature of the attack, they found no fingerprints, footprints, or even any unidentified DNA. As the investigation intensified, the police department announced the deployment of additional patrols across the town as a preemptive measure to reassure the community. The shocking murders reverberated through the quiet college town, marking the first murder since 2011, when Kevin Seary was killed in his apartment. In hopes of identifying a suspect, a tip line was established for the community to provide information. Despite this effort, the flow of tips was scant, and those that did come in led nowhere. As weeks passed, detectives found themselves at an impasse. Every person acquainted with the couple was interviewed, yet none could shed light on a potential suspect. All of Oliver and Claudia's children were interviewed and scrutinized, but they could offer no further insight, and wanted the murders to be solved even more than the detectives. Oliver and Claudia were universally regarded as amiable individuals with no known enemies. Everybody they met became a friend to the couple. Despite the lack of leads, detectives remained committed to the investigation. Lieutenant Paul Dorov of the Davis Police emphasized the gravity of the situation, stating, "This is our top priority. A breach of security in one's own home strikes at the core of our sense of safety. We're determined to uncover who is responsible and why." He appealed to the public once more, urging those with surveillance cameras to review their footage for any potential information. 2 months following the murders, Davis police received a call from a jittery teenage boy named Alvaro Garibay. He expressed a desire to provide a tip regarding the double homicide that occurred in April. The 911 operator knew he was talking about Oliver and Claudia. They asked, "What can you tell me about that?"
I know everything, and it's really scary actually because he kind of threatened me and all that.
You have like the suspect information?
Yes, I have. I know him. I know he told me everything that happened, everything he did, like all the little details.
The 911 operator handed the call over to one of the detectives.
Who am I speaking with?
I want to remain anonymous. Is that okay?
Okay. What are you calling to report, sir?
The double homicide that happened in April this year.
What can you tell me about that?
Everything, actually.
Okay. And how is it that you were able to have all this information about it?
The person told me everything.
So you know who did it?
Yes.
Okay, let's start from the beginning.
Alvaro said that his best friend, 15-year-old Daniel Marsh, had confessed to the double murder to him, describing the killings in chilling detail, with a disturbing smile on his face. Alvaro said that Marsh told him he cut Oliver and Claudia open because he wanted to see their insides. Initially skeptical, Alvaro's doubts dissipated when Marsh produced the purported murder weapon, a knife he claimed to have used. Marsh had also confessed to his girlfriend, who, along with Alvaro, grappled with the dilemma of what to do next. They were fearful of Marsh's potential retaliation, so at first they hesitated to involve the police. Marsh's disturbing admission that the murders had given him an unparalleled sense of euphoria, coupled with his stated desire to kill again, only intensified their apprehension. However, events took a turn when Marsh's girlfriend ended their relationship after he came to school with a knife. She promptly reported the incident to the school, resulting in Marsh's suspension. Despite this, Marsh snuck into his ex-girlfriend's home through the dog door later that night. Alarmed and unsure of their next move, the ex-girlfriend and Alvaro reconvened to discuss their options. Eventually, they decided to call the police.
You said he disclosed this to you a few nights after the actual death of these people. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think he disclosed it to you, first of all?
I can't really answer that because that will give me away.
Okay, go ahead. And okay, what's your concern? What's your concern about remaining anonymous?
The reason why I don't. If he finds out it's me, because if he finds out it's me, he's gonna try to after me or try to get his friends after me, and I don't want that to happen.
Following this phone call, Daniel Marsh was arrested. Daniel William Marsh was born to parents Bill and Sherry on May 14, 1997. His courage and quick thinking garnered local attention in 2008, when at the age of 10 he received the American Red Cross Heroes Award for using CPR to save his father, who had suffered a heart attack. Bill and Daniel were at home when Bill began experiencing symptoms of a heart attack. He bundled his son into the car, but blacked out while on the way to Sutter Davis Hospital, his foot still on the gas pedal. 10-year-old Daniel sprang into action, grabbing the steering wheel from the passenger seat and steering the car away from oncoming traffic until it crashed into a wall. Drawing from his admiration for the TV show House, Daniel recalled a technique he had seen on the show and promptly administered chest compressions, ultimately reviving his father. During the award ceremony, Marsh's parents looked on with swelling pride. Afterwards, his mother, Sherry, told The Enterprise, "I'm extremely proud of my son and who he is." In the same year, Marsh's family life took a tumultuous turn when his father discovered his mother's affair with their son's former kindergarten teacher. The revelations sparked a bitter divorce and custody battle between Bill and Sherry, leaving Marsh and his older sister Sarah caught in the crossfire. Their once spacious 5-bedroom home on Marina Circle fell into foreclosure, forcing Sherry to relocate to Lard Drive, while Bill settled into a condominium on Cowell Boulevard, just 2 doors away from Oliver and Claudia. Marsh found himself primarily residing with his father, separated from his sister, who lived with their mother. The abrupt upheaval shattered the stability Marsh had known, plunging him into a deep state of depression. His resentment towards his mother and sister festered, manifesting in disturbing thoughts of violence. Struggling to cope, Marsh's mental anguish became physical as he developed an eating disorder. In the latter half of 2011, Bill sought help for his son, enrolling him in a Kaiser eating disorder outpatient program in Sacramento. However, Marsh's condition proved more severe than anticipated, necessitating intensive treatment at a companion Kaiser Hospital program in Berkeley. The 6-week ordeal left Marsh deeply scarred, further complicating his already troubled psyche. As Marsh grappled with his identity, his mental well-being took a sharp decline. Plunging deeper into depression, he sought solace in alcohol and marijuana, often spiraling into prolonged binges, yet finding no relief from his increasingly bleak thoughts. In April of 2012, tensions reached a boiling point during a heated argument with his father over his drinking habits, resulting in Marsh getting kicked out of his father's home and returning to live with his mother and sister. Marsh's inner turmoil continued to fester. His anger found destructive outlets, targeting birds, a cat, and a raccoon before his descent reached a critical point. In December of 2012, he was involuntarily hospitalized for depression. Sherry had taken him to the emergency room, where he spoke with nurse Patricia Prentice. Opening up about his struggles, Marsh admitted to grappling with uncontrollable anger and a volatile relationship with his mother. Despite previous prescriptions, Marsh consistently rejected his medication, opting instead for self-medication through alcohol. Alarming the nurse, Marsh confessed to frequent suicidal thoughts and recounted 3 failed attempts, including an overdose on morphine, drinking himself to death, and standing on the train tracks, but the train switched tracks to avoid him. These troubling thoughts weren't isolated to self-harm. Marsh confided his unsettling fantasies of harming others, including fellow students. With an eerie smile, Marsh vividly described gruesome scenarios of mutilation. Despite his efforts to manage these intrusive thoughts with marijuana and alcohol, Marsh admitted they lingered incessantly. While Monica felt a rapport with Marsh, her duty to prioritize student safety led her to alert the authorities about his troubling revelations. Meanwhile, Marsh's father, Bill, sought custody of him and his older sister, Sarah, expressing genuine concern for their well-being and safety. However, despite Bill's pleas, on the 8th of March, Yolo Superior Court Judge Kathleen White awarded sole custody of Marsh to his mother, Sherry, granting her full legal authority for his medical and psychiatric treatment. After Daniel Marsh was arrested, he was taken to Davis Police Headquarters to be interviewed. Despite his alleged confessions to close friends, a nagging doubt gnawed at the detectives' minds. They were acutely aware of his fragile state, raising the unsettling possibility that his admissions could be nothing more than desperate cries for attention or manifestations of his psychological turmoil. At the crime scene, there was not a single piece of evidence left behind, and detectives found it unlikely that a teenage boy could orchestrate such a crime without leaving any DNA or fingerprints. Daniel Marsh reluctantly took a seat across from Detective Ariel Pineda and FBI Special Agent Campton. They first asked him what he was doing over the weekend that Oliver and Claudia were killed. With his hands clasped together and his back hunched over in the seat, Marsh told detectives that he had heard about the murders of Oliver and Claudia, but everybody in town had. The detectives then told Marsh they wanted to clear up some rumors they had heard, referring to his confession to his friend and girlfriend. The topic of the interrogation then switched to Marsh's home life. Marsh spoke about the anger he felt towards his mother after she abandoned the family for another woman. Marsh then spoke about his older sister, Sarah. After this, the detectives told Marsh that his friend had said he confessed to the murders in great detail. The detectives made it clear they didn't believe Marsh. They probed him for answers, their relentless questioning slowly chipping away at his resolve. As the interrogation wore on, Marsh's facade began to crumble, his protests giving way to desperate pleas for the detectives to believe him. Eventually, he realized that the detectives already knew it was him who had killed Oliver and Claudia. He said that on the night of the murders, he lost control after fantasizing about murder for years. Sometime between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., he snuck out of his mother's home, dressed in all black, including a ski mask. He wore gloves and put tabs on the bottom of his shoes to prevent any footprints. He was carrying a 6-inch buck knife as he prowled the quiet streets, hoping to come across a home with an unlocked door or window. Marsh had already checked around 50 doors and windows when he came to Oliver and Claudia's home and found what he was looking for. Marsh had met the elderly couple a few years earlier when they invited him and his father over to their home after they moved in. That night, Oliver and Claudia had left open a window. Marsh sliced open the screen and quietly crept inside. Marsh described standing over Oliver and Claudia's bed as an out-of-body experience. But before he had decided what to do, Claudia woke up.
And the woman woke up, so I just started stabbing her. Over and over. Okay, all throughout the torso, and I tried to get... And then the husband woke up, and he looked over, and just as he looked over, I stabbed him in the neck. And then I went back to killing the woman because she wouldn't die.
You're stabbing her in the torso and she just wouldn't die.
Yeah, like, I stabbed her a lot, as you obviously know. It took a long time. And it was a lot easier with the guy than it was with her.
After Oliver and Claudia were dead, Marsh continued to stab their lifeless bodies, telling detectives that it just felt right. He also told them that killing Oliver and Claudia was the most enjoyable feeling he had ever experienced. After the confession, Marsh told detectives he had been harboring thoughts of killing people for years. The first time was when he was 6 years old, but by the time he reached middle school, these thoughts had grown. Every time he looked at someone, he had thoughts of how he would kill them. Marsh began having fantasies of committing a mass shooting at school. He sometimes pondered how many people he could kill before he was taken out by responding officers. Marsh said that after the murders, he was on a high for a few days and began making plans to carry out another murder. His plan was to wander the streets of Davis at night and beat someone to death with a baseball bat. But thankfully, on the night that he went out, he didn't come across anyone. After the confession, detectives obtained a search warrant for Sherry's home. In the garage, they found Marsh's bloody clothing, along with a black pilot's jacket he had stolen from Oliver. He told detectives he had taken the jacket as a souvenir. On the 18th of June, Daniel Marsh was charged as an adult with 2 counts of first-degree murder and was ordered to be held at the Yolo County Juvenile Detention Facility without bond. He was additionally charged with special circumstances, including torture, lying in wait, and heinous and depraved murder. On December 12th, Daniel Marsh was sentenced to 53 years in prison.